Who actually understands how to write villains better? DreamWorks or Disney? And who keeps wasting perfectly good ideas? Some antagonists are shaped by decades of pain and impossible expectations, while others turn evil because apparently hearing the word no was a personal attack. Today, we're breaking down what DreamWorks understands about evil that Disney seems to have forgotten. Pure evil done right. DreamWorks understands that not every villain needs childhood trauma or a heartbreaking backstory. Sometimes, a villain simply wakes up and chooses violence. Enter Jack Horner from Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Jack grew up with loving parents, financial stability, and a mansion, so trauma is officially off the table.
Just loving parents and stability in a mansion. Useless crap like that.
While others seek the wishing star for deep emotional reasons, Jack wants it purely to hoard all magic in existence. Apparently, owning a pie empire wasn't enough. He treats his employees like disposable equipment with names. Jack is so proudly, shamelessly awful that the ethical bug gives up on redeeming him.
You're an irredeemable monster! What took you so long, idiot?
A reasonable reaction to a man who'd throw a puppy into a volcano and complain about the delay. There is no hidden goodness, no tragic misunderstanding, and zero chance of redemption. Jack knows he's evil, loves it, and remains completely satisfied with the setup. DreamWorks leans into his absurd cruelty and dark humor, proving an unrepentant monster can be wildly entertaining. Of course, simplicity only works when the character remains consistent, and that brings us to a prince whose personality changes faster than the weather in Arendelle. A twist that failed. And that prince is Hans from Frozen, a villain whose greatest power is apparently to rewrite his entire personality in the final act.
Oh, Anna. If only there was someone out there who loved you.
To give Disney credit, the reveal surprised audiences, but surprise and satisfaction are not the same thing. Hans is supposed to be a calculating opportunist, planning to steal Arendelle's throne, yet everything he does early on makes him look genuinely decent. He supports Anna, keeps the kingdom running, and even saves Elsa at the Ice Palace. When a guard fires a crossbow, Hans actively redirects the shot into the ice chandelier to knock her out. If Elsa's death clears his path to power, why rescue her twice? If he's just building public trust, the film never hints at it. There are no subtle cracks in his persona or suspicious glances. He simply shifts from a charming prince to a theatrical evil, as if handed a new script backstage. Then he makes the oldest rookie mistake, monologuing before finishing the job. Sir, Anna is still breathing, Elsa is nearby, and your throne exists purely in your imagination. Hans provides quick shock value, but lacks depth. DreamWorks takes a far more painful route. Instead of waiting for a mask to fall, it lets us watch a character slowly break beneath years of pressure and impossible expectations. The tragedy of broken expectations. Tai Lung is not evil simply because the story needs a punching bag for Po. His downfall begins long before his dramatic prison escape, making it genuinely tragic. Abandoned as a baby, Tai Lung is raised by Shifu, whose genuine love quickly becomes tangled with overwhelming expectation. Recognizing the boy's extraordinary talent, Shifu shapes Tai Lung's entire identity around one promise: he will become the Dragon Warrior. Can you really blame Tai Lung for believing it?
You knew I was the Dragon Warrior. What did you do? Nothing.
Shifu literally names him Great Dragon and treats his destiny like a scheduled appointment. Then, Oogway says no. In a single instant, Tai Lung doesn't just lose a title, he loses the only future he was taught to value. While flattening the Valley of Peace isn't an acceptable form of emotional processing, his explosive rage feels painfully human. Tai Lung's resentment isn't a cheap twist, it's the result of years of pressure, misplaced certainty, and a shattered identity. He wasn't born a monster. He became one after realizing the person he was raised to be was never coming to pass. Yet, Tai Lung's downfall was triggered by expectations placed on him by someone else. Our next villain receives a warning about his future, and personally makes every terrible decision required to ensure it comes true. The villain who created his own fate. Lord Shen's downfall doesn't start with someone else deciding his future. It begins with a prophecy, and his spectacular refusal to handle it like a normal person.
He would be defeated by a warrior of black and white.
Told that a black and white warrior will defeat him, Shen panics. Instead of reconsidering his life choices or taking a quiet vacation away from pandas, he chooses genocide. In trying to destroy the prophecy, he single-handedly creates the exact enemy destined to fulfill it. When his parents banish him for mass murder, Shen rewrites history, convincing himself they exiled him because they never loved him. He converts the consequences of his own horrific actions into a tragic wound to blame on others.
My parents hated me.
They loved you so much that having to send you away killed them.
Shen spends years building weapons to conquer China, completely blind to the fact that every desperate step to escape his fate hires him on as its most hard-working employee. During their final duel, Po offers him a chance to let go. Shen refuses, but as his own cannon falls to crush him, his eyes soften in acceptance. DreamWorks somehow makes us feel a trace of sympathy for a genocidal peacock, an achievement that shouldn't belong on any resume. With that level of tragedy available, Disney's King Magnifico had every ingredient to be equally compelling. Unfortunately, having all the ingredients doesn't help when the story forgets to cook them. Disney's biggest wasted opportunity. King Magnifico should have been one of Disney's most tragic villains. He had a painful past, understandable fear, and the perfect setup to become a ruler whose good intentions slowly eroded into tyranny. Instead, the film rushes his downfall, flattening all that potential.
They deserve more than...
I decide what everyone deserves.
Having lost his family to violence, Magnifico built Rosas as a haven, collecting wishes to protect his people from heartbreak. On paper, it's a brilliant premise. A compassionate leader whose protective instinct gradually curdles into absolute control. His descent could have been terrifying because we'd understand how protection became possession. Instead, the movie barely explores his trauma. Magnifico's past is mentioned once, then shelved. Rather than showing anxiety morphing into paranoia, the story introduces forbidden magic like a cheap emergency button. Within minutes, he shifts from a charismatic ruler with questionable methods into an unhinged, self-obsessed dictator. Imagine if he turned to dark magic only out of panic after Asha inspired the kingdom to rebel, desperate to prevent the chaos of his youth. That would have been tragic. Instead, Magnifico doesn't fall. He trips over a rushed screenplay. Strangely enough, Disney once understood that villains didn't always need complex motives. Sometimes they just needed elegance, power, and enough pettiness to curse a baby over a missing party invitation. When Disney understood pure evil. Long before Disney gave every villain a tragic backstory and a therapy-ready explanation, it understood something wonderfully simple. Some characters are memorable because they genuinely enjoy being terrible. Maleficent from Sleeping Beauty is the gold standard. She curses an innocent baby simply because she was excluded from a party. No kingdom was stolen, no childhood was crushed. She was snubbed and responded with attempted murder.
She shall prick her finger on the spindle of a spinning wheel and die.
Honestly, that level of pettiness demands respect. As the mistress of all evil, Maleficent dominates every frame with sheer elegance and menace. She doesn't need us to validate her trauma or ponder if she's secretly misunderstood. Her appeal lies in how completely she embraces her role. She is theatrical, terrifying, and stylish enough to transform into a dragon just to win an argument. Classic Disney knew complexity wasn't mandatory for greatness. Modern Disney, however, couldn't resist changing the recipe. The live-action remake gave her tragic origins, turning a ruthless icon into a misunderstood protector. While sympathetic, it erased the cold simplicity that made her so intimidating. The original didn't need healing. She just needed dramatic lighting and an entrance. DreamWorks, meanwhile, understands that some villains exist to reflect the hero's darkest potential, showing what happens after making all the wrong choices. And in the darkness, Pitch Black is waiting to offer Jack Frost that exact choice. The perfect mirror villain. Pitch Black does not merely oppose Jack Frost. He represents the dark path Jack could take if centuries of isolation turned into bitter resentment. In Rise of the Guardians, Pitch is fear given physical form. He despises the Guardians because they hold everything he lacks: hope, joy, wonder, and child belief. Pitch is utterly forgotten, making Jack the only soul who truly understands his pain. Both spent centuries moving through the world unseen and ignored. Jack's plight is arguably worse. He doesn't even know his own origin. When Pitch looks at Jack, he sees a potential ally. Besides, Darkness and cold are already a natural match. They're basically the supernatural dynamic duo of seasonal depression. Pitch offers Jack purpose and companionship, exploiting his fear of never belonging anywhere.
You don't have to be alone, Jack. I believe in you, and I know children will too.
But Pitch misses the vital difference between them. Jack may be lonely, but isolation never made him cruel. Even without recognition, Jack spreads snow days and laughter. Pitch responds to invisibility with fear. Jack responds with joy. That is why Pitch succeeds as a mirror villain. He reveals the darker path Jack chose to resist. Disney attempted a similar reflection with Robert Callahan in Big Hero 6, but that mirror is so foggy you can barely see the hero in it. A reflection without depth. Robert Callahan from Big Hero 6 is clearly meant to be a darker reflection of Hero. Both are brilliant inventors who lose someone they love, and both come dangerously close to letting grief curdle into revenge. In theory, the parallel is powerful. After Tadashi dies, Hero nearly uses Baymax to murder Callahan. Meanwhile, Hero allows his daughter's tragic accident in the portal test to consume everything he once stood for. He is the cautionary tale of who Hero might become. Unfortunately, the film fails to give him enough depth for the comparison to land. The biggest issue arrives when Hero confronts him about Tadashi's death. Tadashi ran into a burning building to rescue Callahan, dying for his mentor. Callahan's cold response? That was his mistake.
He went in there to save you.
That was his mistake.
Perhaps a brief flicker of guilt was in order. Instead of looking like a broken man who lost his humanity to grief, Callahan feels oddly robotic. Showing a flash of internal conflict before pushing forward would have proved he knew he was doing wrong, but was too consumed by hatred to stop. The reveal is surprising, but completely unearned. Once again, Disney becomes so focused on hiding the villain that it forgets to build him. But before we mourn another wasted reflection, DreamWorks sends in a whistling wolf who makes every ordinary antagonist look far less threatening. Because revenge can be defeated, death cannot. A redemption that was never earned. Not every antagonist needs to be an unstoppable force of nature. Some villains are meant to feel painfully human, people who make terrible choices, while convincing themselves those choices are necessary. But with a character like that, the writing must actually earn their redemption, rather than just checking a box. Sadly, Namaari from Raya and the Last Dragon falls directly into that gap. Designed as Raya's counterpart, Namaari betrays Raya's trust, helps break the dragon gem, unleashes the Droon, and triggers the disaster that turns Raya's father to stone. So yes, Raya has a fairly reasonable excuse for being suspicious. The film tries to excuse her actions by claiming her tribe lacked resources, but we rarely see her wrestle with genuine guilt or resist her mother's influence. Then comes Sisu's death. Namaari points a loaded crossbow at the dragon, and when Raya's sword strike causes the bow to accidentally misfire, Namaari blames Raya's inability to trust for the tragedy. The climax expects Raya's sudden trust in Namaari to feel inspiring, but trust must be earned. Namaari never sincerely apologizes or takes accountability. Her redemption feels completely unearned. To see genuine inner conflict done right, we have to leave Kumandra and meet a ruler whose love, fear, pride, and cruelty are woven into every single choice he makes. DreamWorks' most human villain. Where Namaari's conflict is mostly explained to us, Ramses from The Prince of Egypt is built around raw emotional struggle from the moment he appears. Before becoming pharaoh, he is introduced as a brother. We watch him and Moses race chariots, wreck temples, and laugh like privileged siblings who have never met a consequence they couldn't outrun. These early scenes ground their bond, making Ramses far more than a distant tyrant. He is someone Moses loves, and someone who genuinely loves Moses back. When Moses returns demanding freedom for the enslaved Hebrew people,
And the God of the Hebrews came to me. He commands that you let his people go.
What?
Ramses is forced to choose between his brother and his royal duty. Raised by a father who taught him that mercy is weakness, freeing the enslaved people isn't just a political choice to Ramses. It would prove he really was the weak link his father feared he would be. Every plague feels like public humiliation, making him cling tighter to his fading authority. His love for Moses never fully dies. It is slowly buried beneath fear, pride, and the crushing need to appear strong. DreamWorks doesn't excuse his cruelty, but reveals how every choice pushes him further toward ruin. And yet, some villains don't need a throne, an army, or a tragic past. They only need a whistle, and the certainty that everyone must eventually meet them. The villain no hero can defeat. Death works because he isn't just another enemy in Puss's way. He is the one opponent no amount of charm or swordsmanship can permanently defeat. When the wolf first appears in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, Puss treats him like an ordinary bounty hunter. That cocky attitude vanishes the second blades are drawn. For the first time, Puss isn't smiling or staging a dramatic escape. He is genuinely terrified. The wolf is death itself, the physical form of everything Puss treated like a joke.
You are no bounty hunter. You are death.
After wasting 8 lives in reckless ways, Puss assumes his final life deserves the same careless treatment. Death strongly disagrees. He arrives early, personally offended by such arrogance. Most creatures get 1 life. Puss got 9 and treated them like free samples. Honestly, Death has a point. Puss cannot win through raw strength or clever tricks. The only way to survive is by changing himself. Through Kitty Softpaws and Perito, he learns that 1 meaningful life is worth more than 9 wasted ones. By their final duel, Puss protects his single life rather than chasing legend. Death lets him go because Puss finally proves he is worth sparing. Other villains can be defeated. Death cannot. He is waiting at the end of everyone's story. DreamWorks often has a deeper understanding of evil than Disney. Their villains are portrayed as being broken by impossible expectations, committed to chaos, or waiting at life's end, each adding something meaningful to the story. So, which DreamWorks villain do you think was written best? And which Disney villain had the most wasted potential? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe for more character breakdowns, and check out the next video on your screen.